Story 1: I helped my student cheat on exams, and I'm not sorry for that. I am a grad student, and I'm a TA for a calculus professor. Karina was one of my students. Karina failed this class twice and was trying again over the summer. This was the last math course required for her major. The school's policy is that you get 3 chances to pass a class. Karina was desperate, and I really wanted to help her. From day one, she put in the effort. Every week, she came to my office hours early and stayed past the end. We did so many practice questions together. I tried to explain things to her in so many different ways. I brought in other grad students to help her visualize things. We tried to use real-world examples about marine biology, based on the given rate of change, how long it will take for water to drain from the salt marsh, stuff like that. None of it helped. She was still on the verge of failing the class. I personally think it's silly how she's required to take calculus as a marine biology major. In the future, let's say she needs to estimate how long it will take for water to drain from salt marshes on Florida's Gulf Coast during low tides. She can use plenty of tools to help with that. When she's a marine biologist, she will not need to solve calculus problems by hand on a closed book test. She's actually a really good student in all her other subjects. Calculus just wasn't her thing no matter how hard she tried. I know some people think this is impossible, like, if you try hard enough you can accomplish anything. But that's not always true. Before the first midterm, Karina asked for extra help. I told her I could meet her over the weekend. We met at an obscure coffee shop about 20 minutes away. The TAs and the professor wrote the exams together, so I had them with me. I helped Karina practice the exact questions that would be on the test. I gave her the questions one by one and made her repeat them. I think she caught on to what I was doing. We went over each question so many times that she had them memorized like a poem. For the final, I helped her study the exact same way. Our exams had bonus questions that she didn't do, so she didn't set the curve, but she got one of the highest grades. She passed the class. She can continue now as a marine biologist, and she never has to take calculus again. I know this was unfair to the other students, but I'm not sorry for doing it. I gave Karina a fighting chance. I want to help my students succeed, even if it means playing the game a little differently. I still see Karina around. She says she will be forever grateful for my help. She says if it hadn't been for me, she might have abandoned her dreams of being a marine biologist. Story 2: My divorce is finalized. My now ex-husband and I had been separated for almost 2 years. On November 23, 2022, exactly one day after our 1-year anniversary, and one night before Thanksgiving, my husband got drunk, angry, and that anger turned to violence for the first time in our relationship. I set our 2-month-old son down on the bed to swaddle him, and my ex-husband grabbed me by the neck to force me to turn and look at him. I fought his hands off of me, and he told me I was overreacting. I put our son to bed in his bassinet and locked myself in the bathroom. I posted to Reddit on a separate account. I was afraid of him seeing it. I wasn't sure if he knew my account name, asking what I should do. While I was responding to the numerous comments telling me to get out and get out now, he started banging on the door and screaming that he was going to kill me. I opened the door because I couldn't leave my son and stepson in the living room out there with him like that. Thankfully, my daughter was at my parents' that night, about a mile away. He stepped in and punched me in the chest, specifically to hit the heart pendant on the necklace he had just given me for our anniversary. It left an imprint. He backed me into the closet, and I kept begging him to let me out and let me go. He asked me if he was worse than my exes, and I said, "Right now? Yeah, you're the fucking worst." In hindsight, I shouldn't have exacerbated the situation, but he punched me square in the jaw. I fell to the ground and broke the organizer drawer beneath me. He finally left and went to lay down and basically passed out immediately. It was around 1 a.m. I was too scared to call the police myself because I didn't know what he would do if he woke up, and I didn't know if his gun was in the house or the car. I knew my parents and sister wouldn't be up, so I texted my best friend who normally isn't up that late but I thought might be a chance, and she responded. I told her what happened. She called my mom, who woke my dad, which in the commotion woke my sister. My sister called the cops. My dad and brother-in-law got there before the police and got me and the kids down to the car as they were pulling up. The cops immediately asked me about the mark on my chest. I hadn't even realized I had a mark yet. I told them where I had been hit and they insisted I go with EMS. My father came with me and my brother-in-law took the kids to my parents' house. I had a CT scan to ensure my jaw wasn't fractured, and it wasn't, but it hasn't been the same since. I already had TMJ, but it was on the left side. Now the right cracks. It's lovely. My ex went to jail and I suddenly had a 3-year-old and 2-month-old on my own, and I had just started a new management position at work. I was hanging by a thread, but I made it. My ex spent the next almost 2 years making it as difficult as possible to get divorced, and I'm still working on getting child support. Since November 2022, he has not paid a cent for his son who just turned 2 on September 10th. I work full-time, so for 2 years I've paid $2,000 per month for daycare while living with my parents, just so I can try to get back on my feet with my babies. It's finally happening, though. My baby girl started kindergarten, so she's not in daycare and my costs are cut in half. I'm selling my car, as my grandmother left me hers, which reduces my monthly costs by another $500. My divorce is final, which means I will get less runaround from child support and finally get the money I need to help to support my son. I've been putting money away for 8 years for a down payment on a home, and once I have the opportunity, I can put me and my babies in our own home. I can get my name back. I can be myself again. It's been nearly 2 years of tears and therapy and fighting and screaming and begging and trying to just get a fucking divorce from the man who wanted to kill me. Finally, I'm free. Story 3. I destroyed my life chasing a fantasy, and it cost me everything real. I almost lost everything by chasing a fantasy. Twice. I hurt the people closest to me, fell for illusions, and destroyed what really mattered. All because I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I've been married twice. My first marriage ended because I was too young and selfish to understand what commitment really meant. I cheated often, thinking I could have it all, marriage and excitement on the side. I hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and by the time I realized the damage I'd done, it was too late. But even after the divorce, I hadn't changed. I jumped into a second marriage, convinced it would be different. Convinced I'd be different. But old habits die hard. I started pulling away from my wife, chasing excitement elsewhere, and falling back into old patterns. I traveled a lot for work, and I was reckless, sleeping around on almost every business trip, thinking I could keep everything separate. Then came someone else. She seemed to have everything my wife didn't. Kid-free, never married, living the carefree, exciting life I thought I wanted. I convinced myself that leaving my wife for her would make me happy, so I did. I left my wife for her, believing I had finally found what I was missing. But once I made that leap, the reality of who she was hit me hard. Turns out she lived a very dark life. She had been sued for fraud, had a DUI and a suspended driver's license, and had an affair with another married man before me. The professional connections she bragged about? Non-existent. In fact, she had no real friends and was known as a homewrecker because our affair became public on social media. The illusion I had fallen for? Completely fake. I had destroyed my marriage for someone who wasn't even close to the person I thought she was. The affair being made public through social media made everything worse. Suddenly, everyone knew. The fallout wasn't just in my personal life, it was everywhere. People saw me differently, and I had to deal with that shame on top of everything else. Despite it all, my wife and I never officially divorced. We had kids together, and every time I visited, we'd reconnect, sometimes even physically. It was messy and painful, but deep down, I don't think either of us ever truly let go. Eventually, I came clean. I told her the truth, that I wanted to make things right and do it properly this time. I didn't deserve her forgiveness, but she gave me another chance. On her terms. We started counseling together. And let me tell you, counseling isn't a quick fix. It's brutal. You can't hide behind lies in that room. You have to face everything, the raw truth about who you've become. The hardest part wasn't admitting what I had done, it was hearing the truth from her, hearing how deeply I had hurt her, and facing the reality of the damage I caused. That's the part that sticks with me. The wounds don't heal overnight, and the process is slow. So slow that even now I know I'm still working to earn back the trust I shattered. We started going on date nights again, being more present for each other, trying to build new memories. What I learned is that fixing a relationship isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up every day, in the small moments, even when it feels fragile, even when it's hard. I've stopped chasing fantasies. The relief of no longer living a double life is something I didn't expect, but the scars I left behind won't ever fully heal. I've learned that chasing illusions costs you everything real, and I'm living with those choices. I'm not looking for advice or sympathy. I just needed to get this off my chest. Maybe some of you have been in the same place, chasing something temporary at the expense of what's real. I learned too late what it truly costs. Story 4, I hate my daughter. I know this will make me seem bad and all, but above all, I really just need a place to vent. I can't talk about it with my friends or family, nor do I really want to. I'm 27 and I've had a friend with benefits situation with a guy I went to college with. Let's call him Mark. We were both young and not ready for a relationship. Then I got pregnant. I told Mark about it since I wanted to discuss our options. Abortion, adoption, or even giving him custody if he wanted to. I never wanted kids, so I'd be fine with any compromise. However, Mark didn't take it well. I remember him insisting we could make it work, especially since we were both in our last year of college. He wanted to get married and for us to be a family. I refused. He got his family involved. They called and texted me all the time, even showing up at my part-time job. I know I have no one to blame but myself, but I gave up. I had too many things going on at that time, like the loss of my mother, the stress with the rest of the family, and some stuff going on with my best friend that I won't get into. I remember feeling horrible, but I relented and agreed to keep the baby, although I still refused to get married to Mark. Now we have a 5-year-old daughter together. I'm a mess. I never wanted kids, and although I'm trying, I can't feel any motherly love for her. What makes it worse is that she's genuinely a good kid. She doesn't throw many tantrums, she's always kind, and she doesn't expect much. I feel guilty for hating her. I feel bad all the time. I only get to have her on the weekends and Mark has her every other day, but that doesn't make me feel better. She talks about wanting to see me and her dad together, but I just can't. I screamed at her once when she drew a little picture of me and Mark holding hands. I apologized after, but I still felt so guilty. I don't know what I'm doing. I just needed to write everything down and get it off my chest. I know I'm a bad mother, I know it, but I don't know how to be better. I don't even know if I want to be better. I just want to give up my parental rights, but even the thought makes me feel even worse. I'm stuck in a hell of my own making. I know I should have fought harder and probably just abort her. Damn me for being weak, I guess. Story 5. My husband's 4-year-old daughter from a previous marriage died, and I feel my own marriage is over. My husband is an airline pilot. He was married before and had a 4-year-old daughter. They divorced right after she was born. We met shortly after, and it was like in a movie. I was a passenger on his flight, and that flight was delayed. And he was there with the crew, and we spoke for almost an hour, exchanged social media, and the very same evening we hooked up. But even though it usually doesn't work, we stayed together, and very soon we got married. So it started like a fairy tale, but it turned into a nightmare. I knew about his daughter. I saw her a couple of times. She died unexpectedly 10 months ago. He has changed so much, he became almost skinny and developed a huge problem with drinking. Because of this, he lost his job. He was a captain. But he doesn't even seem to care. I love him so much and I want to help him. I cook what he likes to eat, but he just doesn't. He snaps at me, then apologizes. He cries a lot when alone. We still have sex sometimes if he initiates, but it's so meaningless and empty. It happened only 6 times in the past 10 months. I understand. I don't blame him. I want to help, but have no idea how. I feel I am way too young for this. I am just 24. We have a significant age gap, as he is 40, but we got along so well. Aviation was his biggest passion, and I tried to motivate him with that, but he doesn't care. He drinks so much, and I cry so much, and then I feel guilty because I understand that he lived through a huge tragedy. He blames himself for not being a part of his daughter's life, as he was always away. How to help? I suggested therapy, but he yelled at me to leave him alone. Then he felt sorry and apologized. I am in a dark place, but for him it is worse. How to make him feel better and make him stop drinking. I am afraid he will start using other substances too. Story 6. Just found evidence that my ex has been breaking into my apartment to read my journal for years. I think I'm in shock. For context, we have been broken up since 2020. We had a business together at the time and decided to keep working together. It was a little rocky at first. We got back together once briefly, but it didn't take, so we became friends, and everything has been pretty smooth for a few years. My ex has a spare key to my apartment in case of emergencies, and to occasionally pet sit for me. Today I logged into our business Gmail and discovered he has been accidentally backing up his iPhone camera roll to our shared account. One of the first photos I noticed was a picture of my journal. I found out that he has been breaking into my apartment for years, reading my journal entries and taking pictures of some of them to keep. Some of the photos were from the journal I kept while we were still dating, but more recent ones were negative entries I made about 2 of my exes, which coincide with times he tried to get back together with me. The most recent photo was an entry where I described how I was falling in love with my current boyfriend, and the date lines up perfectly with a very upsetting emotional tirade he went on a month ago, where he announced he was no longer in love with me anymore. There were a lot of other things on there, like hard evidence of his hookups that confirm he was cheating on me at various stages of our relationship. I'm honestly not surprised by that stuff, but I did panic a bit about the journal entries because he was in my apartment when I wasn't home, and he's been doing this for years. How can someone do that? What else is he doing when he's here? I haven't told him I know all of this yet. I'm trying to process my feelings about it all. For the record, even though a part of me is scared, I don't think he would ever hurt me. But then again, I didn't expect him to be capable of such a blatant violation of my privacy and trust. Story 7. I just found out my daughter lied about my wife's affair, and I don't know what I should do. I was married to my wife, Laura, for 6 years. I also had a kid from my previous marriage, Sarah. It was really hard for me to date and get to know women after me and my daughter's mother divorced due to infidelity issues, regarding the fact I had a kid and trust issues, so meeting Laura was really a blessing. We met at an aquarium where I was with my daughter and she with her niece. That day I kept noticing her and how she was treating the kid, and it brought a smile to my face. The next time I met her was a year later, at the said niece's birthday. It turned out that Sarah and the niece were at the same class, and seeing her again was a pleasant surprise. LT was like fate. I mustered up my courage to speak to her and finally talk to her. She was a great company and she spoke really well, and it made me like her more. Since it's been 3 years to my divorce, I shot my shot with her and decided to take her out for a coffee. And next thing I know, we've been married for 6 years. Laura has been an amazing wife and a mother. She treated Sarah well, and since her mother was not in the picture, she quit her job and took the responsibility to take care of her full time. She even decided to wait to have kids until Sarah was a little older, hence she didn't want her to feel left out, and was scared that Sarah wouldn't get enough attention. She taught Sarah multiple languages and shared her culture with her. Her relatives are amazing with her and treat Sarah no less than a bio daughter of Laura. She even has shared her recipes and baked goods with my family, and everyone looks forward to holidays whenever Laura hosts them. She and my mom have developed a great relationship. My friends and family tell me that I won the lottery with her, and it really feels like it. Even when Sarah's bio mom showed up after abandoning her own daughter for 9 years, she was the one who encouraged me to let Sarah connect with her and let her be in my daughter's life. She tried her best to help Sarah get to know her mother and even built a friendship with Anna, Sarah's mother. However, earlier last year, around May, I noticed that my daughter was distancing herself with Laura. This was weird, as my daughter never had any fallout with the relationship with Laura as most teenagers do with their mom. Even Laura noticed and cried about it multiple times. So one night I decided to talk to my daughter and ask her what was going on. Sarah told me that she found out Laura was having an affair with someone, and she's hurt that Laura betrayed her and me. Hearing that felt like someone was crushing my heart, and the hurt on my daughter's face intensified it. I went straight to my room and woke Laura up and yelled some hurtful things at her. I'm not proud of how I handled the situation, and I agree I could have done better. However, the only thing I can think about was how hurt my daughter was. I kicked her out that night, and that was the last conversation we had without a lawyer present. Around November, our divorce was finalized, and I moved on with my life. I did do some things I regretted to Laura, so I didn't want to make it hard for her, and just wanted to be done with her so there was no revenge and petty actions involved. I did let my family know the real reason, and they were disappointed to say the least. My daughter also doesn't have a relationship with Laura, and we cut contact with her family and threatened legal action if they tried to meet with us. I didn't want anything to do with her. During August, I decided to surprise my daughter with a trip to celebrate her 16th birthday. Since I was dealing with the divorce last year, I wasn't able to really celebrate with her, so I decided to pack her bag and take her straight to the airport from her sleepover with friends. I asked my younger sister to help me with packing Sarah's clothes. While she was packing, I saw a notebook on her nightstand with a Polaroid of her and Laura peeking. Curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it to find out it was her diary. This might have been wrong of me to go through my daughter's diary, but I went through it, and I have not been well ever since. She wrote about how she lied about Laura having an affair, and how she even made evidence to make me believe her if I questioned her. She wanted me and her mother to be together as a family, and kick Laura out of the picture. However, after Laura left us, is no longer in her life, she's regretting it. It felt like my heart broke for the second time. I started crying, and I haven't even cried when Laura added, "I divorced." My sister noticed me, and I asked her to leave and keep it a secret from everyone. She asked what happened, and I showed her the diary. She was shocked, but told me that she respects my decision and vowed to keep her mouth shut. I drank the night away, and just have been in automotive mode like a robot. From work to home, and drank till I black out and returned to work with a raging hangover. My daughter noticed it, but I told her it was just a stressful time at work. But last Sunday she blew up at me saying that she noticed that I've been different since Laura left us, and told me if I wanted to stay with a cheating whore, I was more than welcome to abandon her. That did hurt like hell, but I just left my room and laid on the bed and cried the night away. It has been around 2 weeks since I found out about it, but I haven't said anything to my daughter. I want to bring my emotions under control before saying anything I'd regret, and I don't want to repeat the mistake of taking actions while I'm hurting. And quite frankly, now that I'm thinking with a sober mind, I'm not really sure how to confront my daughter. I need closure, and I don't think I can just act like nothing happened. I'm quite ashamed to say so, but I want my Laura back.